There's a strange assumption most of us grow up with, that a full life is a loud one. Busy calendars, constant motion, rooms full of people, phones buzzing, somewhere to be. And by that measuring stick, the quieter years, the ones after the career winds down, after the house empties out, start to look like life turning the volume down. Here's what almost nobody tells you. Researchers who actually study this stage of life have found something closer to the opposite. The quiet years aren't life turning down. They're your mind finally operating at its sharpest. And once you understand why, you'll probably stop apologizing for how quiet your life has become. We tend to treat busyness like proof of a life well spent. The more full the schedule, the more it must mean. It's an easy thing to believe when you're younger. There's simply more to build: a career, a family, a name for yourself. But something shifts later on. And for a long time, psychologists assumed that shift was decline. Less energy, less ambition, less to offer. Turns out, they were measuring it wrong. Today we're going to look at what's actually happening in the quiet years and why it might be the most capable your mind has ever been. In the 1990s, a psychologist named Laura Carstensen noticed something that didn't fit the standard story about aging. She was studying how people's priorities change as they get older, and she found something almost nobody expected. As people age, their emotional well-being tends to improve, not decline, improve. She called her explanation Socioemotional selectivity theory, a fairly technical name for a fairly simple idea. When people sense that time is limited, they naturally become more selective about how they spend it. They stop investing energy in things that don't matter and start investing almost entirely in what does. Younger people, Carstensen found, tend to spread their attention wide, meeting new people, chasing new opportunities, keeping every door open, because the future feels long and unlimited. But somewhere later in life, that instinct quietly reverses. The wide funnel narrows, and what's left, once all the noise falls away, is what actually mattered the whole time. That narrowing isn't loss, it's focus. Here's the part worth sitting with. A quieter calendar isn't evidence of a smaller life. Very often, it's evidence of a life that has finally stopped wasting energy on things it never needed in the first place. Think about what fills up a younger life. Proving yourself at work, managing relationships that don't quite fit but seem important to keep, saying yes to things out of obligation or fear of missing out, or simply not yet knowing what you actually want. Carstensen's research found that older adults report fewer relationships overall than younger adults, but describe the relationships they do have as significantly more satisfying, not less connection, better connection. The wide, shallow circle of younger years narrows into a smaller circle of people who actually matter, and the quality goes up exactly as the quantity goes down. That's not your world getting smaller. That's your world finally being edited by someone who knows what they're doing. You. A woman named Ruth taught elementary school for 31 years. For most of that time, her days were a constant negotiation. Lesson plans, parent meetings, staff politics, 30 children's worth of needs pulling at her attention every single hour. When she retired, her daughter worried she'd feel lost without all that motion. Instead, Ruth described something different. She said her days had become smaller, but somehow clearer. She spent mornings in her garden, afternoons with 2 or 3 close friends, not 30 acquaintances, evenings simply sitting without needing to be productive about it. I used to think being needed by everyone was the same as mattering, Ruth said. Now I know the difference. I matter to fewer people, but I matter more to them. That is almost exactly what Carstensen's research describes. Not a smaller life, a more precisely aimed one. There's another piece of this worth knowing because it directly contradicts the assumption that quiet years mean a slower mind. Carstensen's research found that older adults are often better than younger adults at regulating their emotions, staying calm under stress, avoiding unnecessary conflict, letting small irritations pass without spiraling. Some studies even describe this as an emotional skill that peaks later in life, not earlier. Think about that for a moment. The years that look, from the outside, like the quietest, are frequently the years where a person has the clearest handle on their own mind that they've ever had. Less reactive, less rattled, less likely to waste an afternoon on something that won't matter by next week. That's not decline. If anything, it's closer to mastery. So here's the actual difference between the busy years and the quiet years. Once you strip away the assumption that louder automatically means fuller, the busy years are about acquiring more experience, more relationships, more options, more proof. That's not wrong. It's simply what that stage is for. The quiet years are about using everything you already acquired, on purpose, without the noise. Every friendship you keep now, you're keeping because you chose it, not because circumstance handed it to you. Every afternoon spent doing very little is an afternoon you decided was worth spending that way, not one you were too overwhelmed to notice slipping past. That is not a smaller kind of living. It might be the first time in your life you've actually gotten to choose it. So, if your calendar has gotten quieter, if the phone rings less, if there's more open time in the day than there used to be, consider the possibility that you haven't been sidelined from your own life. You've simply arrived at the part of it where you finally get to decide, on purpose, exactly what deserves to be in it. The quiet years were never the pause after the important part. Research increasingly suggests they may be the important part, the years your mind was actually built to reach. I'd like to know, what does a quiet year actually look like for you? What have you kept now that you finally get to choose? Tell me in the comments.